Welcome to this episode of Human-Centered AI, everybody. We're going to kick off today's episode with sharing with you two updates. One update is about our new exciting news about Microsoft, and the second update is about our Human-Centered AI Leadership Academy. So let's begin with the big news, which is that DTJ, Design Thinking Japan, we have become Microsoft's official partner for the official training partner for Microsoft Elevate in Japan. Now, the thing that's really exciting about the Microsoft Elevate program, in general, is that it aims to equip people and organizations with AI skills and tools to thrive in an AI-powered economy. So this is not about Gemini. We had actually a few people asking us, does this mean that you're selling Copilot licenses? No, we're not particularly selling Copilot licenses.
The program, here we have it, the DTJ is now an official training partner for Microsoft Elevate in Japan. And we're very proud to see both logos, right, next to each other, because we share that intention to equip every corner of the society in artificial intelligence topics. And yeah, the exciting part is that this is about helping society, helping policymakers, helping contributing with governmental agencies to think critically about AI. Not precisely how to use a tool, right click, and this is the menu. But when you're facing a challenge, to understand where is a good moment to use AI, where and when is not a good moment, or where can you combine it both. Like understanding the trade-offs, the ups and downs, and to make better decisions for the future.
Right. And this is where our role comes in as DTJ, that we lead the delivering, so the delivery side of the human-centered AI education, and that will essentially enable learners in Japan. So if you're asking kind of who are the learners, I mean, the answer is kind of really everybody. If you look at the Microsoft Elevate initiative, it is for the entire end-to-end of society, but specifically in this case, we're speaking about government officials and policymakers. And as Adele mentioned, it's understanding AI's strategic impact, also about how to evaluate opportunities or implement opportunities, and also lead informed governance conversations. So one thing that I'm really excited about, you might have also seen in a few episodes back of our Business Karaoke podcast, actually a couple. So we've had legal, we've spoken about legal on Business Karaoke podcast, and we've also spoken about cybersecurity. Another really key pillar of essentially enabling responsible, safe AI is that we also have AI implemented at a government level, and we also have our government employees, or those leading their government, creating policy, understanding AI at a what I like to call minimum viable literacy. So like the level of AI literacy that they need in order to do their job really well. And so we're really excited. I think this is a wonderful opportunity, and we're very proud that it came from our human-centered approach to AI, not only our AI capabilities, but our relationship or this particular engagement with Microsoft came from our particular human-centered approach to AI.
The Design Thinking Japan team did a great job there, because it takes a lot of, let's say, hours and years to take such a complex topic as artificial intelligence and all the derivatives to make it, let's say, complex enough or simple enough to be used in a positive way, regardless of what is your, let's say, position in academy, in society, in industry. Like, what is the right level? What is the key moments, the key messages that you need to acquire?
Right, and yeah, again, the team did an incredible job. We're very excited. So for us, I would say that's probably top news right off the top. So we will be, we have been entrusted to support learners in Japan, specifically government officials and policymakers, to build their own how to think about AI, not necessarily what to think about AI, and no, not just yet, we're not selling Copilot licenses just yet.
Yeah, that's the other part. Like, since this is about critical thinking,
right?
The same thing in Japan is still pretty much open to work with the rest of the technologies, because one message doesn't conflict with the other. Like the same way when you acquire a good service or a car, knowing which car fits better your needs. It's a different conversation to which brand serves that purposes, right? First is understanding where do you play, and the second, which brand do you want to play. And I think that, let's say, that flexibility that Microsoft also let's say, puts on the table, it's very critical, because it's not about positioning a product, it's about elevating society in a general way.
Yeah, and that's for me really just, if we think about in terms of an initiative that not only I personally want to be involved in, me as Brittany, but also as Design Thinking Japan, it has got to be something like this. It's got to be an initiative that is aimed at equipping people to think more critically and to really develop their own AI literacy compass. I love to talk about AI in terms of a compass, so helping you understand where you want to go, because at the end of the day, isn't that what it's all about? It's about getting to a destination that you want to get to. So is that destination that you're a small business owner and that you're just looking to, how can you optimize your back office because you need to export more now and you don't have, for example, maybe the hands that you used to because you live in a rural area of Japan? Or are you right here in Tokyo, and are you responsible for thinking about, digital strategy or AI strategy at a government level? So I really, to be a part of an initiative that is deeply connected to helping people thrive in an AI-powered economy, which means each person has their own use case. I mean, this is exactly the kind of work that we've been working on for a very long time, but to then partner up with, or to have this, to be together in this engagement with, through the Microsoft initiative or the Elevate in Japan initiative. I mean, for me, this is just one of the, I couldn't think of it.
No, and nice.
More exciting.
No, it's nice because the message, the way we acquire the information is particular, and at the same time, the Design Thinking Japan team is still enabled to work with the rest of the technologies, with Google, with Amazon, of course, with Microsoft, with different models, with from the Copilot, from the cloud, from the Groks, even from the open source models that are out there. So the flexibility is still there, and now maximizing value for society.
And to kind of, we're a human-centered AI company, right? Which means we also want to give you a little bit of the human-centered side as well. I have to say that the learners, the policymakers and the government officials that were there, firstly, it was on a Friday night.
You're talking about the first
engagement. So the first engagement
the inaugural session.
Yeah, the inaugural session was with GRIPS, which is the National Graduate Institute for Policy Studies, just in Roppongi. Even the lead of GRIPS who we're talking with, he's like, yeah, people don't believe that there's a university in Roppongi, but there is. So we went there. Firstly, the session was on a Friday night and it started at 6 o'clock because they're all working. This is actually, this particular university, everyone that goes there, whether they're doing their further education, they're all working policymakers. And so the fact that they had a full room, Friday night, 6 p.m., full of policymakers that wanted to know more about AI, and that they were very positive. So not positive in the sense of like, hey, yeah, let's use it for everything and we don't have any opinions. More like, hey, we are super interested to understand how this is going to impact our particular role. Because if we think about it, when if of course, AI and particularly when it comes to cybersecurity, everyone's data has the same level of value, right? But there are certain roles where a wrong report, unlike, for example, the Deloitte example where you just pay back 400,000. Obviously, you have reputational issues and stuff, but no one died, right? But if we're talking about hospitals or governments, these is kinds of the people that when they're dealing and they're working with AI, that yes, people's lives fundamentally can be different, right? And so they're obviously taking a balanced approach, which is, hey, let's think about how we can use this in our lives, but then also, quite optimistically, showing up and, trying it for themselves.
Interesting part is that the audience were, of course, Japanese policymakers. However, there was an international
program as well. Yeah.
Program. There were a lot of international policymakers on that session, which means it's also the importance of Japan to transforming itself as a hub.
Right, what a role, exactly. So I remember, we had people from, obviously to for privacy reasons, we can't go into their names or anything, but we certainly had people represented from
different countries.
Different countries, different continents, and I think that's a great point. That all of the, they're bringing, they're coming together in Japan as a hub, as part of this, as a part of this Microsoft Elevate initiative. So. It's really cool. It's really exciting. Stay tuned. We'll be letting you know more about that. But no, it doesn't mean that we sell Copilot licenses. We are actually tech agnostic at DTJ, to be honest.
Yeah.
We are tech agnostic. Of course, if you ask our developers and our tech team, of course, they have their preferred dev environments.
It's a continuously changing environment.
Certainly is. So that's news number one. Let's go to news number two. So the second news is that we have just wrapped up our third cohort of our Human-Centered AI Leadership Academy. But don't worry, we will be bringing this back every month, basically from here on in. So we have our December Academy open. I have our January Academy open. Before I jump into maybe my personal thoughts, let me give you a little bit of a kind of a background about where this came from. Here, our AI Leadership Academy, obviously through our remote course or through our remote cohort, means that it's open to everyone. However, the reason for... And our second news is that we are just about to open our December and January cohorts for our Human-Centered AI Leadership Academy. We have just finished now our third cohort since it launched. Basically, I think we launched somewhere in August or September. I can't even really remember anymore when the first date was. But yeah, we're 3 cohorts in now, which is incredible. So we have now our doors open for our remote cohort as well as our in-person cohort here in Daikanyama for December and January. So let me talk to you a little bit about where this came from. First and foremost, very much similar to our Microsoft news, it came from our deep belief that when it comes to AI, a human-centered approach to AI, which means what do you want the AI to do, for what, for who, what problem are we solving, is pretty key. That's where it came from.
Even a little bit stepping down or moving a floor up, what do you want to achieve in your business? What do you want to achieve with your career? What do you aspire your surroundings, like your ecosystem to do, right? And AI might be a tool, might be a material to achieve that aspiration. So I think that's part of the critical thinking that is being shared, developed, and trained at the Leadership Academy.
Right, exactly. And we called it a Human-Centered AI Leadership Academy because we're not teaching you how to use LLMs. We're not teaching you anything actually coding. If anything, during most of the program, unless you're in the remote cohort, your computers are closed. And we're diving deep into mental models or to frameworks around how to think about AI, not what to think about AI.
The thing is not relevant to know how to code. It's not relevant how to use an LLM. What's the message there? Like when we say it's not relevant, we're not saying it's not relevant to know how to code. The same way it's not if you're driving a car. Of course, maybe you won't fix the bolts of the engine, right? But knowing that all the parts, how they combine, could make you more confident on the features, on the stretch of the vehicle that you're driving.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, very much building on the car analogy, there is this element of you're the driver, right? Which is very much our belief of AI, that AI is not leading you and you're just following behind. You're very much sitting in the driver's seat. But the same way that as a driver, you're an educated driver, you're able to see the fuel, you're able to see the speed, you're able to think, okay, if I'm driving down the German Autobahn at 180 kilometers an hour and I have 10 kilometers left of gas in my tank, maybe I need to pull off and refill. That kind of analogy. So the idea that you're able to identify the different technical components, but you're not responsible for knowing how combustion engines work, for example.
Because still teams exist out there, like
That's right.
the same way in a sports team, right? You're the technical director, the principal, the strategist, right? You coordinate all these amazing players. You coordinate all the staff, many things to happen, and they execute, right? And they achieve the vision that you have in front of you. But do you really need to kick the ball as Cristiano Ronaldo? Maybe not. But knowing how to guide that person and say, oh, it's not the how fast are you running to kick the ball, it's how you're leaning your body towards left or towards right. That will, create this momentum in the ball, in the space, right?
One thing that we've also seen here in Japan, and I'm sure those listening, many of you are in Japan, or those of you that are even listening from abroad, is that I'm yet to meet a company that says we're not interested in AI, but I do meet companies that are waiting to make up their minds about how they think or what that they think about AI. And I think this is something, we were actually at a lunch yesterday where one of the people at the lunch said, we need to think about what's the opportunity cost of doing nothing. In Japan, we often talk about being risk averse. Oh, we don't want to do anything. But in this age of AI, could doing nothing actually be the most risky thing? And so this space that, sorry, as I'm throwing my pen around, but this particular space is supposed to be for people that do want to take a step, but can't necessarily or don't necessarily want to wait for an entire ship to say, yes, we're all going to move in that direction. They want to have their own competitive advantage and then move forward. And so this is also why it's also super exciting, because people that are here are from different backgrounds. And for those of you that are either running an organization or running a department, you often know that you're often working alone a lot of the time. Yes, you have teams, but often if you're leading, who can you really have those leadership conversations with? And it's a really nice space for people to come and speak with essentially peers.
Yeah, and I think this one interesting aspect, or one wonderful aspect of the academy, is that the more you're, let's say, talking, engaging, breaking down, breaking apart, you realize many things that are happening out there. Many times you hear this conversation at let's say at the company level, like we have to do something at that corporate level, right, at my team level. But also at an individual level, this is starting to, let's say, to create barriers and opportunities, mostly opportunities. I was talking with a few people that I know, and they were telling me, hey, I'm aspiring to have a bigger career, right, better career. Yeah, I'm trying to find opportunities. That's amazing. I'm interviewing, great. Which kind of course, I know their role is in marketing, for example, and design. And she told me, you know what was curious? It's the first time they asked me about AI. If they ask you about AI, I mean, kind of the intuition, what about it, right? And the interesting aspect is that they're not asking you really if you use ChatGPT or Copilot or Grok. They really want to know if you can identify the trade-off. Like, when would you use it? When would you empower the team? Can you match the speed of the rest of the organizations? How are you optimizing yourself? How are you keeping up with these changing moments, right? So right now, everybody can have the Copilot, right? But knowing the whens to combine it to maximize the solutions is becoming more immediate. More immediate to the individuals.
We've even seen the opposite, which is I always tell, for example, we had a few of our graduates that are looking to change jobs, because at the end of the day, if you're an organization with no clear AI strategy, your best talent is going somewhere where there is, right? Like, let's be honest. And so we had a few people that had joined our academy that they're in transitional periods in their lives. They're looking for new jobs for various different reasons. And so I also encourage
and also on the other side, we have more that are saying, we're not doing things, and I think we should take steps.
Right, exactly.
Like the Coke like a celebrity person that says, you have to find a way to make it happen in your company. You have to help your company be successful, despite of the challenges of your own company, and leading the way. It's sounds echo, but that's what makes a leader.
It is, and so as much as, yes, there are HR departments, asking you these questions, what's your approach to AI? How do you think about AI? What's your strategic compass around AI? You certainly can also ask an organization the next time that you're either interviewing for a job or you're interviewing a customer or a client. Ask them, what's your approach on AI? What's your position on AI? What's your position on human-centered AI? What role does the human play in your AI stack or the AI process, for example? So I think these are all real questions that we're really excited to get into, and our graduates have raved raved about their experiences, and yeah, we're very excited that these kind of two pieces of news that we've shared with you today, both our Microsoft announcement that we're official training partners for human-centered AI for Microsoft Elevate in Japan, particularly to the policymakers and government officials, and also our own human-centered AI Leadership Academy, is something that, we really believe go hand in hand, because this is not something we do because Microsoft said we should do it. We've actually been doing it for a very long time, perhaps, which is why Microsoft came and said, hey, maybe this is something that we could do together. So we're very excited. If you are someone that is looking to develop your own AI literacy, this is, and you're wanting to do it from a human-centered approach. Maybe you're already familiar with design thinking, maybe you're already familiar with AI, but you'd like a human-centered approach, and also a process, something that's not like patchwork anymore, not just kind of like swatting flies, but something that has more of a process. Certainly let's talk. But I also think there's a really interesting kind of equation here that we're always dealing with when we're talking about enterprise level AI or industrial level AI, which is, we believe that AI as a mindset or as a skill set certainly needs to move from a vertical very much to a horizontal, which means that the organization as a whole has to develop, or each team, each person has to develop their own level of literacy around AI. But when it comes to the implementation of projects and leveraging and experiencing the benefits of AI, I think we almost come back to the MIT report that says, yes, and, which is yes, educate yourself and make sure when you do roll out projects or you do choose projects, which ones you're going to, which ones are worth your time versus which ones aren't. Make sure that you do it kind of in a tempered, balanced way, right?
Yes, it's quite important. Like the analogy of the digital transformation is because the digital transformation is the goal. So imagine that's the line everybody's running and you achieve that goal, right? In the case of AI, of course, you can have an artificial intelligence strategy where that's the goal. However, if we see AI as a tool or as a material, it's a material that everybody can equip. It's a cool hammer that everybody can hold. Regardless of what is your position in the organization, in the academy, in the family, you can use that tool to enhance. So that's the interesting part, that AI runs across the value supply chain, across society to multiply whatever we have in front of us. That's why it's so, let's say, beneficial, because it can have this wide impact.
Mm. Yeah, so I think this is super interesting, the idea of balancing that that fundamental literacy approach, even going back to like the Microsoft news again, which is that we need to develop skills and mindsets to thrive in an AI-powered economy, right? Which means you can't just rely on your AI team or on your digital transformation team or whatever that team is, right? They've got a lot on their plate. There are now opportunities and moments and certain levels that it is really not only necessary and required, but it's also very much even the responsibility of the individual to increase their own AI, what they think around AI and how they think around AI. And things are changing, and I think this is so quickly. And as someone leading in a human-centered AI company, I'm used to things changing. I am super used to it. But I have to say, this week, I was jolted a little bit. There was one of the first times when it comes to AI.
That's the third news?
Yeah, we're now slowly moving to the third, or this is not necessarily news. So the top news was that DTJ, we became an official training partner for Microsoft Elevate in Japan. That's one. Second is that we have our Human-Centered AI Academy.
December and January.
Yeah, in December and January. It's going really well. People are really enjoying it because we give them frameworks on how to think about AI, not what to think about AI. And then just wanted to close today's episode with something that I'm seeing from the field, that even as someone leading an AI company, super comfortable with change, super okay that everything is changing all the time. What we saw coming out of Fei-Fei Li's lab last week, last week, regarding not AI as in artificial intelligence, but SI as in spatial intelligence. I was like, what? I'm just getting my head around AI. Forget about SI. So very quickly.
For those who are not familiar with this aspect, Dr. Fei-Fei Li, she developed pioneering work using computer vision. So the computer vision is what we use to detect that a bottle has a cap, right? Or a cat is a cat. It's kind of foundation, critical technology back then, breakthrough technology. Right now, recently, she's working, of course, in the next frontier of artificial intelligence.
The next frontier of artificial intelligence, which means that
keep moving.
artificial intelligence.
And you think it's done?
Is no longer
You think it's done?
anymore.
No.
Yep.
We all have seen how you can take a picture and animate a picture.
Yep.
Now, this is the interesting part. World Labs have developed a product where from one picture, imagine you're taking a picture from a room.
Mm-hmm.
The artificial intelligence converts that picture into a 3D environment. But not only 3D, like you can move around.
Bring it up. I'm wondering if it makes sense to bring it up.
Actually navigate around it.
Okay, so I have mine open. Alrighty. So walk us through, also for those of us that are just listening in, what are we looking at?
So Dr. Fei-Fei Li, it's this celebrity in the artificial intelligence world. She pioneered computer vision techniques, where you could use images, of course, to be used to recognize objects, right? So right now she's working on the next frontier of artificial intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not over. It's not over yet.
No.
The magical part is that we all have seen that you can take a picture and animate a picture or make a movie out of that picture. Now the new thing that we're seeing with Marvel is that Marvel, is that you can take a picture and create a 3D representation of such picture.
Yep.
Like for example, we have something here, right? Like let's say this example.
Yeah. So for those just looking, it kind of looks very much to a.
We're seeing it here.
Older, yeah. But if you're just listening, for example, it's like an older kind of.
Yeah, like an older
courtyard could be like gives me German vibes.
Yeah,
could be Italy.
Aisle,
yeah.
Right? And the funny part or the interesting part is that you could, let's say, do a 360 loop, right? You can look around. This is completely automatically generated. However, you can actually walk into this aisle. This is completely AI generated, right? You can walk back, forward, as if it was a video game, right? I'm going to, let's say, zoom out so you could see how all this model is generating all the aisles, the space, the tridimensional aspects, right? Let me go to one that is ours, right? For example, this one, if you can see it, this is our, this is Brittany, Arthur, and this is one of the desks at the office. And in a couple of seconds, this image is generating the 3D representation.
So up until now, it's like you're looking at it, you're like, oh, okay, it looks some kind of like a 3D photo. But then as you start exploring, and for example, you go through here, you walk down the hallway, you're seeing that it's rendering as you're moving, and that this photo just keeps growing, and now it looks like some kind of like spaceship. And you think, oh my goodness. So one of the things, in terms of like applications, because in terms of technology, I mean, I'd love to hear your thoughts on AI moving from reading and writing to seeing and kind of doing, essentially, is like what we're seeing here. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, but as someone that's trying to understand deeply the use cases, and what about the applications? When can I introduce this to a customer, or when can I introduce this to a client, for example? And, obviously, us being here in Japan, I like to kind of go deeply into what people are dealing with, what are the real issues that we're dealing with, and one thing, obviously, in Japan that we struggle with is space, right? We super struggle with space, and also the cost of space. Like even, for example, if you are wanting to prototype, which office layout is best for you, using this, for example, being able to simulate, in a hospital, multiple different layouts for patients and nurses. I mean, you really start thinking, being that human-centered AI approach, what are the problems, right? Because if you look at this, you go, yes, the technology is obviously super cool, but it's not about it just being cool technology. It's about what problems can it solve, right? That's what human-centered AI is. It's what's the user problem. And some of the user problems that we're dealing with in Japan are.
So the question is, so what?
Yeah, cool. Exactly. Kind of so what?
Can I buy an onigiri with this technology?
Yeah, I mean, we're dealing with problems with space in Tokyo being super expensive. What about an aging population? All these kinds of things, and then we can see how this can connect.
So it's one responsible activity that we appreciate from the Scientific in Japan team is that we want to share what is the AI, or we want to demystify the AI.
Mm-hmm.
What is the AI part that is tangible right now, and what is the AI that is still a little bit far ahead? What we're observing here is the results of recent research, recent investigation. It's not really something that you could right-click, implement.
No, this isn't in ChatGPT yet, for example.
However, this is a product that you can literally open, sign up, and start using it. This is a real picture. Now, what is the, let's say, the interesting part for all of us? Like let's say a few months ago, or still today, a lot of people is focusing on the large language models in the ChatGPTs, in the
Right,
Groks, in the
AI
Cloud.
is ChatGPT only, for example.
Like AI can talk to you. That means that finance can delegate some things, but operations still has to work. They're like, okay, but I still have to load this truck, so I'm safe. However, when you start seeing that AI is moving from the digital world to the 3D world, when you start identifying that there's a chair and the chair has a limit, when there's an aisle and the aisle has a width, a composition, then it could create limits. If this happens, don't cross that wall. There's a chair, you can go on top of that chair. If you move it, it can make sense, it can remember what happened there. That means that decisions on the artificial intelligence sense can be made or transferred into the physical world, which means that logistics, operation, transportation, mobility, all, let's say, the second or the next wave of activities is going to be benefited, impacted positively. Of course, we all want, right, to achieve more at speed. What does that mean for the regular person? Means that the AI will be part of my day-to-day. That now maybe I could simulate how can I load this car in a more efficient way.
Yep.
Where should I put all the packages that I would have to deliver? What if we order the cars or coordinate with the suppliers the way they arrive, so our outbound logistics happens in a shorter amount of time? How can we configure our tables so the patients can come faster into our pharmacy, right? So now these kind of technologies enable the what if, right? Enables more possibilities, right? And as people who look forward into the future, who wants to anticipate what's coming, right? So these are aspects that are happening already that give us that can give us a sense of what do we need to do? How can we prepare for what is getting cooked or what is getting ready?
Right, and I think this is an interesting kind of progression. The idea of, we're currently dealing with, LLMs, and that's perhaps people's most common association of AI. Then moving, for example, to the digital world. So, for example, this 3D world, what we're just seeing, for example, with the work that Dr. Fei-Fei Li is leading. And then, for example, our kind of next step, which is that physical AI, robotics, and things like that, which we're very interested in, particularly in Japan, because we are, if you remember, this is also your usual famous story that when Jensen Huang is usually giving his presentations, what do we see?
In the NVIDIA keynotes, when Jensen Huang is presenting, of course, all the NVIDIA ecosystem, there's a moment when I call it the robotics parade, right? Yeah. He stands up and all the robots stand behind him doing something. And of course, double click and you could see the robots, what's the name? They're actually companies, right? And we see companies from many countries. United States, of course, Chinese companies.
Canada,
Germany, India.
Yep.
However, we're still awaiting for the breakthrough. Not awaiting, that's not the word. So we've seen many countries happening.
We would expect in that moment to also see a Japanese robot, but we don't. Right, and so this for us, for example, is very, very interesting. As in, how can we make sure that that Japan, which is synonymous with excellent manufacturing, that also, if we think about robots, Japan certainly has a place in the robotics field. But where are we in terms of an AI-powered robot, for example? So I think this is very interesting that we're following this progression from the reading and writing through to that physical digital world, that it's not just predicting things in our factories, it's running our factories, and then actually then moving to robotics in the physical world. So we are watching with great anticipation I think this is also something, I mean, certainly if you can go ahead over to Marble Labs and sign up. Yeah, play around, have a good time, and just see what it's about. I also, for example, when it comes to applications, I think this is also really interesting where you can, think about this as what would this mean for you? What would this mean for your life? What would this mean for your own context? And just start thinking about that. All right, so I think I guess that's it for today's episode. So our big news: we are official training partners for the Microsoft Elevate in Japan to policymakers and government officials. So as usual, as you know, in Japan, we are an economy of trust, and if you are trusted by the government, usually you're pretty okay. Second big news was that we have our Human-Centered AI Leadership Academy, which really equips people to develop their own thinking around AI, but also gives you some really great tools and frameworks about how to think, how to then approach AI at an industrial level. And then, my goodness, this spatial intelligence thing coming out of Dr. Fei-Fei Li's labs. I mean, that is some interesting stuff to watch.
So that's what is, let's say, the moving frontier of AI, which means also what Brittany, what you mentioned many times. The AI revolution is not a sprint.
Marathon.
It's a marathon, so things will keep changing, and it's better if you walk, run, or jump into the motorcycle and accelerate.
Exactly. Alrighty, everyone. See you next week.
Thank you.